You might worry about what will people think of me if I'm real. And by the way, maybe you're right to worry about that because people will think terrible things about you if you're real. Won't they also think terrible things about your persona? So I guess the question becomes, what do you want to be hated for? Or sorry, which would you rather be hated for if you have to be hated? Would you rather be hated for who you really are or hated for the fake you? And by the way, a lot of people would rather be hated for the fake persona because then they don't really hate you. It's a shield that you're able to keep up. Well, you just hate me because you don't know the real me. Yeah, maybe, but that also means that no one loves the real you either. Hypocritical advice isn't necessarily bad advice. You can run the danger of ignoring it just because the person's a hypocrite. Like, for example, if I brought somebody in here today, and, I'm actually thinking of somebody specific. I can tell you, I'll just say he's a friend of mine. His name is Bubba. He's a real person. He doesn't seem like it, though. Sometimes he's a cartoon. I can never tell which is the real Bubba. Bubba goes to my gym. One day we went for a run, and I live in South Park, and for some reason I'll go run like 3 miles around my house, easy, no problem, just like a warm-up. But then I'll go to the gym, and it's just down the street off of on National City Boulevard. And we used to go run like down my division. We would just do like 1 mile. Now I was just like, I don't know what it is, man. If I run at home, it's easy. But for some reason, doing like 1 mile here seems a lot harder. Bubba shakes his head and just goes, "Everything's harder in the hood, bro." And I was just reminding him about that last night, because this was like a couple years ago. And I was reminding him, he's like, "I remember that." And one of my favorite Bubba stories is he was telling me early on that, because someone we knew was kind of getting into some trouble, and we were telling him, "Hey, maybe we should warn him." And some of us were like, "Nah, let him find out for himself." Others were like, "Yeah, we should warn him." And Bubba's sitting there and says, "I remember when I got in trouble, my mom, she let me, she when I got arrested, she never bailed me out. She made me learn on my own." And then I asked him, "How many times were you arrested?" No joke. The guy says 17 times. The guy did 10 years, not straight, but 10 years chunked up over time. I go, 17 times? He goes, "I was a slow learner, bro." Now, if I brought Bubba in here and I had him give you guys advice, I wonder if you'd listen to it. Or if you sit there and go, "What do you know, man? You spent 10 years in prison." If I brought another friend of mine in here and said, he's local, he started his own painting company called City Painting. He now employs 12 people, does extremely well, has built up his life, and is a model for local businesses. Who would you rather hear from? The former criminal or the business person? In reality, who would you rather hear from?
The criminal.
The criminal. Would it shock you guys to know that that's the same person?
No.
Because it is. This is a guy who did that, and now Bubba owns City Painting. You might see his trucks driving around San Diego. This is a guy who completely turned himself around. And yet, if I gave you a choice between those two, it's almost like we'd rather hear from the criminal just because it's more interesting. If we really, because he would come along and tell you, "Hey, do this, do this, do this. Don't do the things I did." But wait, you're a millionaire today. Yeah, but all that bad stuff, it's only gonna lead you down one road. Down the road of owning my own business someday. So get arrested, spend 10 years in prison. Got it. Yeah, understood. Got it, Bubba. And I'm gonna forward this video to you, Bubba, so you'll get to see that you're now National City famous. Now, just because it wouldn't be hypocrisy necessarily, because it is the opposite of what he did. It's hard for us to sometimes separate out between good advice and bad advice. It shouldn't necessarily matter from who it comes from. Is that person a hypocrite? Yeah. But even hypocrites can give good advice sometimes. Even if that clock stops, even a broken clock is right twice a day, isn't it? But you gotta be careful because of how often it's wrong. So how do you distinguish between those? I don't know. I guess that's wisdom, figuring that out. But this thing about like the persona, the person who presents themselves as one thing and as something completely other. I began by asking that question, how do you know But what does it mean to lose yourself in your lives? And I wonder if any of you guys know anybody who does that. Like they create a persona for themselves, and it's almost like they believe it. How many lies do you have to tell about yourself before you start to wonder if it's actually true, or you forget who you really are? And that's one of the terrible things about lying. Like if I would ask you, should you lie? Many of us would say, no, we shouldn't lie. Not that we actually believe it, but we'll just say that we shouldn't lie. Some of us maybe will say, well, it depends. And what we mean is, will it benefit me?
Or will it save our asses?
Yeah, will it save my ass? And the truth is, you can't even know if it's going to save you because you can't predict the outcomes of things. I'll say something about later. But here's the danger of it, man. So let's say that this is you. And this is, you're a slave and you've lost your family. Which, by the way, that's terribly irresponsible. I've lost like $1 before. But you lose your whole family, man. Forget it. No more family for you.
You put in the gambler addiction.
Oh, I forgot the important stuff. Yeah, he's a gambler. And his particular disease may earn him $1 million. So he's a gambler, he's addicted to gambling. Now, but he presents himself, you said, as someone who's the complete opposite of that. So here becomes the problem. This is reality, right? This is a line of reality. This is his life, and this is who he is. The danger becomes when you start lying, and even just a little bit of a lie, changing like 1 degree of a lie, that sends you off into a different direction now. And now he presents himself as being something else. He presents himself as someone who is, I don't know, I'm guessing free, has a family, not a successful gambler, you said, right? He presents himself as?
A successful, confident gambler.
Yeah, successful, confident gambler. So now here is an issue. Let's say now that he presents himself as the complete opposite of that thing. Now, first off, let's just say that somebody meets this person and then they fall in love with you. You recognize they don't love you. They love a persona that you've created. And all it takes is one little slip of that mask for them to realize, you're not who I thought you were. And the truth is, you're not. You're not who they thought that you were. And what's even worse is that just with your words, what you've done now is you've created a parallel universe. A universe in which you are a successful gambler, you're confident. Now, you don't have to think about it in these terms. Now think about it in terms of the world that you create with your lives. You create a world in which your parents believe that you were working late at school yesterday when you're out doing something else. You create a world in which your friends think that you, I don't know, ran a marathon? I don't know. Something that you would lie about. And so what's happening is you're at some point you have to almost adopt those lies as though they're reality. And once you do that, well, you have to start living this alternate reality, which is, of course, not real. And then surprise, surprise, you walk around the world and you feel disconnected from the world around you. You feel separated from the people around you. And it's because you are separated from reality and you are disconnected from the people around you. Because they don't know the real thing. They know this avatar, this fake thing that's been created and put out into the world. And now if you're a liar, guess what else you also start to believe?
Everyone else is a liar.
Everybody else is lying too. So it's like, and you start to almost justify it. So it's like, well, I can lie because, everybody else is lying because whatever sin I'm guilty of, everybody else is too. I'm not so bad. Right? You're all liars? Yeah, you guys are all liars too. No, we're not. That's what liars would say. So now it justifies that I can be a liar because you're fake also. And now if you believe that to be true, that person is fake, that everybody else around you is fake, how can you possibly form meaningful relationships? There's a fake you who's interacting with a fake them. There's nothing authentic about it. There's nothing real about it. They very well might be a real person, but you send out an avatar to meet them. So they never met the real you, and the real you never met them. And so it's not what you want to hear, but it's true. Now you have to worry, and you're right to worry, that they're going to figure out who you really are. you create an incredible level of anxiety in your life. And you may even now start to disassociate so that you now pretend like this is the real you. This thing never existed. That is me. I'm thinking of a person I actually know. I've known this person for a very long time. I met this person when they were 17. And this person is Filipino. Okay? It's important to the story. He goes off he graduates from high school, he goes to college. All of a sudden, like several years ago, he came to me and he had a British accent. How does this dude get a British accent? Well, he'll tell you, because when he grew up, as he explains, I was living in the Philippines, because it was a really bad British accent at first. It's not bad now, after all these years. And he explained that when growing up in the Philippines, I had a tutor, and my tutor was British, so I learned British English. I'm like, dude, I've known you for like 6-7 years. You've never had a British accent. All of a sudden, the guy has a British accent. Have I ever called him out on it? No. Which, by the way, is probably why we still talk today. This was 15 years ago that I met him. Everybody else that's known him that long, he's not friends with any of them. Why? They asked about the British accent. So now he has to get rid of them because they know the truth. And if he's going to live this fictional life, this fake life, he can't have anybody around who knows the real him. So all of those relationships, all those people who knew who he really was are no longer in his life. The only people he has in his life now are me and everybody else who doesn't know that he's fake, that he isn't a real person. What that means is that if he ever finds someone to love him, he can't. He can only, at best, hope to find somebody who loves the persona. And that's a terrible way to go through life, because that means you can never be loved for who you really are. And that's the thing that people probably desire most, to be loved for who we are, at least accepted for who we really are. He can't have any real friends. What happens if the accent slips one day? What happens if one of those people happens to come across someone who he knew and they exchange, oh, you know him, yeah, oh man, I remember that guy. All of a sudden he developed like this fake accent. It was weird. What do you mean fake accent? Yeah, I knew him back in high school. I knew him right after high school, and he had this fake accent. All of a sudden he started pretending to be British or something. Well, now that person who knows the persona now doesn't know what they can trust. And it completely destroys his reputation. That person maybe tells other people. He has to always worry about that. You might worry about what will people think of me if I'm real. And by the way, maybe you're right to worry about that, because people will think terrible things about you if you're real. Won't they also think terrible things about your persona? So I guess the question becomes, what do you want to be hated for? Which would you rather be hated for if you have to be hated? Would you rather be hated for who you really are, or hated for the fake you? And by the way, a lot of people would rather be hated for the fake persona, because then they don't really hate you. It's a shield that you're able to keep up. Well, you just hate me because you don't know the real me. Yeah, maybe. But that also means that no one loves the real you either. Stop me if you've heard it before, but life is suffering, and you don't get to choose not to suffer. But you can choose what you're going to suffer for. Would you rather suffer to be hated for the real you, or hated for the fake you? Would you rather, the opposite of suffering, would you rather be joyful for being loved for the real you, or joyful for being loved for the fake you? I would suggest pay attention to your lies. The lies that you tell people about yourself, the embellishments, if we're going to try to call it a different word to make ourselves feel better. Because the lies that you tell about yourself reveal something about yourself. They reveal who you wish you were. It also, therefore, opens up a pathway to become who you want to become. If you're a person who lies about about running marathons, there's a reason I brought that example up, I'll tell you. Then if you tell people, oh yeah, I ran the Rock and Roll Marathon. Yeah. So now what do you know about yourself? You're somebody who admires people who runs marathons. So now, if you want to learn how to admire yourself, what can you do? Obviously.
A marathon?
Go run the marathon next year. It's too long. It's 26.2 miles. Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to run the whole thing. Run it, walk it, run it, walk it, run it, walk it. Take 4 hours, take 5 hours if you need to. When you get to the end of it, you'll have the medal and you'll be able to say, I did it. And you'll see yourself as somebody who's worthy to be admired, because that's why we fake this persona. Because deep down inside, or maybe even right at the surface, you don't feel like you're someone who's worthy of being admired. And maybe you're not yet. That's the key word. Yet. Yet. When you get some things under your belt, and you get run that marathon or whatever, or hit a certain goal or whatever, it's slowly, you build up to build yourself into somebody who you think that you're worthy of admiring. And I don't make you very many promises, but I will make you this one promise, and I'll leave you with this. If you can impress yourself, if you can learn how to admire yourself, I promise you, you're going to impress a lot of people. And you're going to be admired by a lot of people. Because for most of you, who's your harshest critic? Yourself. Yeah. Or your dad.
Yeah.
But probably yourself. And if you can impress yourself, if you can make yourself someone who you admire, I promise you, lots of people are going to admire you. And you can build yourself up that way. And then there won't be a need to lie anymore. In fact, you'll tell the truth about yourself, and you'll suffer for something else. People are going to think you're lying. Because they're going to think, I don't know, man, nobody can be what you seem to be. But that's a different kind of suffering together, too. So again, suffer for people thinking that you're not what you actually are, or suffer for people thinking what you're actually not. It's going to be your call. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday? A little bit.